Hello, welcome to the second video of this little series about Napoleon, and in this video we will get to know the son and most of all the brother Napoleon, and also the Patriarch that he was. And since I have quite a few letters, I feel the need to read to you so you get a good idea of the son, brother, Patriarch Napoleon. I will try to talk a little bit less this time and read a little bit more. I will start off with one letter to his father and one letter to his mother, and this will give you a pretty good impression of what kind of son he was and what kind of relationship he had to his parents. Okay. It is October 1784, and since he was born in 69, he was 15 years old when he wrote this letter to his father. So I didn't translate the whole letter because not everything is that interesting. So it starts off, I didn't translate at the beginning, but then here it goes. So 15-year-old Napoleon speaking now to his father. How should I not be happy and content? For I am sure of your everlasting love and affection, as well as your care to encourage and support me in all things. In this sense, I hurry to ask if the baths have been beneficial for you, as well as to assure you of my most respectful regards and eternal gratefulness to you. I am delighted that Joseph came to course with you, provided that on November 1st, about 1 year from now, he will arrive here. And the here, he wrote all the letters with capital letters. And you will get to know Joseph more as we go along. Joseph was 1 year older than Napoleon and the closest of the brothers. And he was very eager for Joseph to come back and be with him. Then he goes on in this letter talking about Joseph's education and possible, career and whatever. And then he finished the letter. Farewell, my dear father. The Chevalier, I don't know, it's French, I don't know again how you will pronounce it properly. But that was apparently a title given to the younger of two brothers amongst royals in Brienne. That's where he was at the time when he wrote the letter, and he was referring to his younger brother. I think it was Lucien at the time. Okay, not 100% sure if you will. Maybe Lucien. I think so. Anyway, he had many brothers. You will get to know all the brothers in a minute. Okay, then he goes on, he sends greetings to all kinds of people, and and then he really closes the letter. And write me if you are well. I close with a wish that your health may be as good as mine, your very faithful and very obedient son, de Bonaparte, the second oldest. And the reason why he asked about his father's health and about the baths is because his father was very sick. And he wrote this letter in October 84, and his father died in February 85. And I will just go ahead and read the next letter that he wrote to his mother shortly after his father had died. Okay, and this letter is from March 28, 1785, to his mother Letizia Ramolino. My dear mother, only today my pain calmed down a bit, and it allows me to speak to you of my gratitude for all the kindness you have always spoiled me with. We must comfort each other, dear mother. The situation calls for it. We will now even double our love. He's talking about him and his brothers. We will now even double our love and devotion to you, and feel fortunate if we can at least partly let you forget the irreplaceable loss of a beloved man. I end my letter, dear mother, my pain does not allow me to write any more, but I close with the appeal for you to allay your grief. My health is excellent. I ask God daily to gift you the same. Your loving Napoléon de Bonaparte. So this gives you quite a good impression as to what kind of son he was. He refers to himself as an obedient, serving, faithful son, and obviously he had very loving and caring and supportive parents. We will go on to Napoleon the brother, and you need to know about his siblings. So he had quite a few. The first two siblings, the first two children that Letizia bore, they didn't survive. They didn't make it. I don't know when they died, but they were very, very young. So, but there's Joseph, the oldest brother. Joseph was born 1768, and just 1 year later Napoleon was born, 1769. And then came Lucien. Yeah, that's the one he was referring to in the letter to his father, the Chevalier or Chevalier. He was born 1775, so 6 years younger than Napoleon. And then 2 years later came Louis in 1778. Oh, that's 3 years later, yeah. So he was 9 years younger than Napoleon. Jérôme was born in 84. So he was born when Napoleon was 15 already. Then he had 3 sisters. Elisa, born 1777. Pauline, 1780. And Caroline, born in 1782. So there were 4 boys and 3 girls in the family. And now we will look at a total of 5 letters that he wrote to Joseph, because Joseph was the closest to him. Well, they were only 1 year apart, so it's obvious that he was closer to Joseph than maybe to the brother that was 15 years younger. And the next letter will also show you what kind of role Napoleon played in the life of his brothers. He's in this letter he's talking about Louis, and that was the one that was 9 years younger than Napoleon, and he was directly responsible for the education of Louis. So he writes to Joseph on April 24 in 1791, and if you ever wondered on what day Easter Sunday was in the year 1791, well, wonder no more. It was April 24. So he wrote this letter on Easter Sunday. And again, I didn't translate the beginning, so it goes, he starts, blah, 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 and then he goes. Louis wrote 5 or 6 letters in whatever gibberish. He is an efficient learner and starts to write French. Remember, they were from course and they had to learn French in school. So they were native French speakers. But apparently Louis did very well. Okay, he goes on. I teach him mathematics and geography. He reads about history. He will be a good soldier. All the women here are in love with him. He already took on a French nature. When he enters a party, he greets properly, asks the customary questions with the sincerity and grandeur of a 30-year-old. He sure will become the best of the 4 of us. And then he goes on about more details, about his studies and the progress, and he finishes the letter with a farewell. So, yeah. So he was responsible for his younger brothers, and he was very serious about that role. The next letter is very interesting because it also gives you some insight into the beginning of the uprising of the revolution, the French Revolution. And the funny thing, one day before I just read this letter again, I watched quite a interesting documentary about the Soviet Union, and the Bolsheviks, they were the ones who would overthrow the Tsar Nikolaus and the Romanovs. And when I read this letter, after watching this documentary about the beginning of the Soviet Union and the end of the Tsarism, I thought Napoleon was describing exactly what I had just seen. And this just tells you that it's just always the same. It's always the same game under a different name. So, and that makes me kind of sad, because that means that people just don't learn, you know. Things just repeat themselves. Anyway, I want to read the letter now. Okay, I'm going to read the letter first, and then maybe make a few more comments about this Lenin guy who was responsible for leading the Bolshevik Revolution. But now we want to go back in time to the French Revolution, and Napoleon writes to his closest brother, best friend Joseph, on June 22nd, 1792. This is a very interesting letter. And I think I translated it completely, yes. This letter, yes. Okay, to Joseph. Mr. von Lafayette wrote to the lawmaking assembly against the Jacobin. So the Jacobin order was an order that Napoleon actually also was a member of. He was a member of the Jacobin. But he says this about the Jacobin. So, Mr. von Lafayette wrote to the lawmaking assembly against the Jacobin. So this letter showed up in the assembly. So, his letter, which many believe to be forged, is written in a strong language. And possibly, most likely, this letter was written by the Jacobin themselves to stir up some kind of conspiracy. So, okay. Mr. von Lafayette, many officers of the army, all honorable citizens, the ministers, the Parisian administration stand on one side. The majority of the lawmaking assembly, the Jacobin, and the plebs on the other. The Jacobin are losing all moderation against Lafayette. They call him a murderer, rogue, crook. They behave like madmen without any common sense. So this also tells you a very important thing about Napoleon. Even though he was part of this order or society, whatever you want to call these things, he was not influenced by them, and he was not controlled by them. He was still very well capable of seeing the whole picture. Okay, he goes on, telling his brother Joseph about things. The day before yesterday, and this is the part when I was reading this, I thought I was watching this documentary again, right? So the day before yesterday, 7,000 to 8,000 went armed with pikes, axes, spears, swords, rifles, and sharp sticks towards the assembly to admit a petition. Yeah. So they went to this assembly to admit a petition. Thereon, they moved on to the king. King Louis the 17th. That was King Louis the 17th at the time. The Sun King, because everything was so shiny about him. He just, he just loved gold and everything shiny. So, the Sun King. So they moved on to the king. Those 8,000 armed people. Yeah. Okay, this is some kind of garden, the Tuileries Garden. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's the garden around the castle. So this Tuileries whatever garden was closed and guarded by 15,000 National Guardists. Anyway, they tore down the gates, penetrated the castle, aimed cannons at the chambers of the king, smashed in 4 doors, offered the king 2 cockades. Cockades were ribbons or oval or round shaped symbols that would be worn on hats. So they offered the king 2 cockades, a white one and a tricolored one, and they let him choose. Choose, they ordered him, to reign here or in Koblenz. Koblenz is a town in the Midwest of what's today Germany. And that's not far from Paris and Brussels. The king appeared and put on the red Jacobiner hat. The queen and the royal princess did the same. Then the king was forced to drink with them. 4 hours they spent in the castle. This gave plenty of pulp to the feuillants for their aristocratic proclamations. The feuillants, they were a political party at the time, and they were striving for a constitution similar to the English constitution at the time. So they were friends of the English, and they were called feuillants because they would hold their meetings, their assemblies in a monastery that was called Feuillant. So that's how they got their name. Okay. So obviously these feuillants kind of used this event for their own agenda, for their own proclamations. Okay. Still, okay. Now, okay. He talked about what these people did. How they went up to the king and forced him, to pledge allegiance to the Jacobin. That's what he had to do. And Napoleon was not a fan of King Louis, but he goes on in the letter to Joseph, still, this is all very unconstitutional and a dangerous example. In such turbulent times, one can hardly foresee which destiny the French Empire is moving towards. So then in this letter he goes on I didn't translate that part. He goes on about personal matters, and they're just, kind of exchanging notes about, what's going on. And then he finishes, I wrote to you from Ajaccio, that's the capital of Corsica, the island. I wrote to you from Ajaccio about the 26 shotguns I had at home. If you could have them sent to Petri, who resides in Servione, we would be able to keep them, because they could be useful at the moment. Napoleon. So, yeah, times were getting a little rough. And obviously, it was good to have a few shotguns around. So, okay. Yeah, finally they killed the king. 92 he was arrested, 93 I think he was beheaded then. And this is exactly the same what happened in Russia 1917, when the Bolsheviks, they did the same thing with the Tsar. And the key player in that Bolshevik revolution was Lenin. And Lenin was really he was the most despicable character, really. Because what he did, first of all, he was a German agent, right? And he was really a coward. He was a cowardly opportunist, and he had this really wicked skill to make those people that murdered the Romanovs. They murdered the whole family in cold blood at gunpoint. And years later, when they talked about this, they still believed that they did the right thing. So this is the kind of wicked skill that people like Lenin have. And it happened. So they overthrew the Tsar, and they had him put away and everything. So, Nikolaus, the Tsar Nikolaus, he would eventually, kind of accept his fate. He showed no signs of resistance. They were put away somewhere. They had children, and so the whole family, the mother and everybody. And Nikolaus, he had given up. He said, "Okay, that's it. That's it for us. Things are changing." And okay, so he resigned. He showed no signs of resistance whatsoever. And Lenin ordered for the family to be brought into a room in the basement, and they told them it's for their own safety. And they have to, the guards, the one that would guard the family. They brought him into this basement, into this room. They locked the room and said, so that's it. And they took out their guns and they shot the whole family in the head right there. There would be 1 meter, right in front of them. And they would shoot Nikolaus and the wife and other family members and the children, and just murder them in cold blood. And that's really the most cowardly and despicable thing to do, and that's the kind of character Lenin was. So, just so you know. Anyway, okay, back to Napoleon now. And I mentioned the Jacobin, the Jacobin that would kind of get this French Revolution, kind of started. And later on, when Napoleon was emperor, they also they also made a plot to assassinate him, again, together with the royalists. They were trying to assassinate Napoleon. So just because someone is a member of a certain club or society doesn't mean that he shares their values, obviously. Okay. So, a little insight to the French Revolution, to the Bolshevik Revolution. And now we go back to Napoleon and Joseph. And this next letter talks about financial matters. And this will show you that Napoleon was truly concerned about the well-being of his family. And he wanted them, to have everything they needed. So this is May 25th, 1795. To Joseph Bonaparte. I was at the Ragni estate that belongs to Mr. von Montigny. If you are a proficient businessman, you would buy it with 80,000 assignats. Assignats were the legal tender back then, and that was the assignats were the paper money at the time, and they were legal tender of the state's wealth. So you would buy it with 80,000 assignats. You could invest 60,000 francs of your wife's dowry. That is what I wish and advise for you. One does not find friends in other countries. To climb up step by step somehow resembled the adventurer and the man who seeks to make his fortune. If you are smart, you will benefit from it. I have no doubt that you can purchase the estate with 80,000 francs in cash. Before the revolution, it was worth 250,000 francs. I think the circumstance is unique to invest your wife's dowry that way. The assignats are falling from day to day. And he was right, and that was May 1795. And by 96, the paper money was only worth 1% of the normal value. So that kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? Okay, the next letter to Joseph will, oh yeah, this is my favorite letter. Okay, this will show you the loving brother that he was. And this will also give you an idea of the romantic and poetic and sensitive side to Napoleon. To Joseph, June 24, 1795. He was 26 at the time, so just, yeah. Okay, here it goes. I will hurry to get what your wife has requested. Désirée asks me for my picture. Désirée was the sister of Joseph's wife, and Napoleon and Désirée at the time had a little liaison going on, a little affair, but it didn't mean much. It was just, a little liaison. I will have one made for her. Give it to her if she still wishes for it. Otherwise, you can keep it for yourself. Okay, and this is now one of my favorite letters of all the letters that Napoleon wrote. Okay. You do know, my friend, that you cannot have a better friend to whom you are more dear and who genuinely wishes more for your happiness than me. In whatever situation destiny may bring you, life is but a light dream that soon will dissipate. When you go away and think it may be for a longer time, then send me your picture. We lived so many years in such close communion with each other that our hearts have become one. And you know better than anybody how mine solely belongs to you. While I write these lines, I am so moved like I have never been before. I feel that we will not see each other anytime soon and cannot continue to write. Farewell, my friend, Bonaparte. And this was when Joseph was about to go to Genoa to do some state and family business. So, yeah, if you have a brother or a sister you feel close to, this letter will get to you. Okay. So he really, really, truly loved his family. Okay, we will go on. Napoleon, he was the smartest diplomat and manipulator, and he was also a master chess mind. And what you need to understand, what is really essential to know and to understand about Napoleon is what kind of manipulator was he? He wasn't the kind of manipulator who would destroy others while manipulating them to do things for their own personal profit or personal gain or profit. That's not who Napoleon was. You have to think of Napoleon as a father who would manipulate his son into eating his vegetables or into brushing his teeth. A 3-year-old boy does not like to brush his teeth, but it's good for him. It needs to be done. And so this is how you have to look at him, as the manipulator. And I know it's hard to believe when you look at Napoleon being a king, a Kaiser, emperor, and a dictator. But also he always saw himself as a servant to his nation, to his people. And for example, he would refer to his soldiers as his children. So this is very important to know about him. When you look at all, the battles and the wars and all the bad things that he did, and these actions that he would do, you have to understand his mindset and the spirit that drove him to do all these things, right? And you have to judge the people by their heart. And he really saw himself as a servant for his people. And this is what made him this great patriarch. He really was a great patriarch. Okay. To Joseph, September 6, 1795. Napoleon is still 26 years old. Okay, he starts. I didn't translate the start. It's not important. Then it goes. I will, especially because of your affairs and businesses, stay longer in Paris. So obviously he was doing some things with Joseph. That's why he stayed longer in Paris. For me, you do not need, no matter what may come, be afraid. I have all reputable people as my friends, whatever party they are a member of, or whatever opinion they may have. So he knew how to be friends with enemies. That was the master chess mind. Okay, then the letter goes on, blah, 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 irrelevant, and then it goes on. I will write your wife. I am very happy with Louis, that's the brother 9 years younger. He confirms all my hopes and my expectations to the fullest. He is a very good soldier. But what appeals to me also is that he unites all within himself. Spirit or fire. I wasn't sure how to translate this word, but it means, that the fire, the spirit that drives you from within. So this mind, health, talent, reliability in daily affairs, a kind heart. You know, my friend, I only live in the happiness I give to my people. So his people, his family, and then later on also his nation. That's how he saw them. If my hopes will be supported by the luck that never leaves me in my operations, so I will be able to make you all very happy and fulfill all your dreams. What you tell me about Felician, that was a guy, he was a former servant of the Bonaparte family. So what you tell me about Felician is very flattering. He may go to course and come back with his money. I will provide for him with a nice position in the vicinity of Paris, where he can have a very good life and make his wife very happy. So he didn't just take care of his brothers and sisters, he also took care of people who would be part of the family, who would serve the family, servants. The absence of Louis is painful for me. He has been of great service to me. There is no man more industrious, more clever, more ingratiating than him. In Paris he would have achieved anything he wanted. Since I don't have Louis anymore, I can only take care of the most necessary affairs. So the brothers, they would also help each other with political affairs. And later on, Napoleon, he would give all, his whole family, all his brothers and sisters, they had some kind of position. They were kings, ambassadors, princes, of Netherlands, Spain, Italy, whatever. So yeah, he would really take care of them. Okay, letter goes on. Farewell, my friend. Entertain yourself well. Everything is okay. Be cheerful. Keep my affairs in mind. I am burning to have a house. I await your answer impatiently. You can stay in Genoa as long as you like. The reasons for that are simple. It is to pull out of course the little bit that is left. And Joseph, he would become king of Neapel in 1806, and in 1808 he would become king of Spain. So, and at the time he was in Genoa, Italy. Okay, those were the letters to Joseph, the closest of the brothers. And now he writes a letter to Lucien. Lucien Bonaparte, the younger brother, who was at the time ambassador in Madrid, Spain. And this letter also gives you some insight about, of course, how, the brothers would, conspire, together in political affairs. Natural, right? They were brothers. Okay, to Lucien Bonaparte, ambassador in Madrid, May 15, 1801. Okay, first he goes on in this letter, which I didn't translate, and he would talk about the kings of Toscana, Denmark, Sweden, and Spain, exchanging notes again, gossiping, what's going on. Okay, and then this is what he says to Lucien in 1801. Make the Madrider court averse to the Pope by letting them know as proven fact that the Pope, without having conferred with any other authority, has solely upon demand of Paul I put the Jesuits back in office. So Napoleon did not like the Jesuits. In another letter, which he later in 1806, when he was already emperor, wrote to Joseph, he also mentions again that he does not acknowledge the order of the Jesuits. So he did not like the Jesuits at all. Okay, so the Pope put the Jesuits back in office, and Napoleon wasn't happy with the Pope, and later on he would also arrest the Pope and lock him up. That's pretty funny. Okay, so the Pope is an honest man, but foolish. He is surrounded by the old Neapolitan parson trash that follows the footsteps of Buscas and behaves badly. I don't know who Buscas is. I tried to research. I don't know. I have no idea. But the Jesuits and the people surrounding the Pope at the time, he referred to as Neapolitan parson trash. Yeah, it's funny. Okay, Napoleon, he really knew what was up. He really did. And all these people later on saying, oh, he was controlled by these people and he was a puppet of these people. And no, Napoleon, he was no puppet. He wasn't controlled of anyone. He was a very strong character. And this is what finally killed him too, in the end. But you can be assured that nobody controlled him. Okay, a little later on, the letters now. So, okay, he crowned himself emperor, Kaiser, in 1804. And this was kind of the turning point, because with all that responsibility on his shoulders, he also changed as a man a little bit. Yeah, well, we will find out more about that in the next videos. Anyway, the letter I will read to you now is from April 1804, and he had crowned himself Kaiser or emperor in February. So he was just he has just become the emperor of France, and he's now writing a letter to his sister Pauline, who was the Princess Borghese at the time, because he married the Prince Borghese. Whatever. Okay. This letter is very interesting. Okay, to the Princess Pauline Borghese, his sister, his own sister, younger sister. Madame and dear sister, unfortunately, I had to discover that you did not have the decency to adapt to the customs and manners of Rome, but instead you treated the citizens contemptuously and had your eyes constantly set on Paris. Although I am busy with very big affairs, and he was the emperor of France. Of course, he was busy with other things, but he took the time to kind of get his sister back online. I do want to inform you about my wishes, with the hopes that you will follow them. Okay, this is what he wishes. Love your husband and your family. Be kind. Adapt to the Roman customs. And do keep in mind that if you choose to be open for bad influences at your age, she was 24 at the time, you cannot count on me. So this also shows you about his strong principles. He loved his family, but if they stepped out of line and behaved badly, he would not accept it. So you cannot count on me. You can be assured that you will not find any admission to Paris, and I will only receive you in company with your husband. If you mess things up with your husband, it is your own fault, because then you will not be allowed to reside in France. Furthermore, you will lose your happiness and my friendship. Bonaparte. So this is also a trait of a great patriarch, to keep his children in line. That's what he did. And this next letter also speaks of his siblings kind of wandering off the herd, The next letter is about the very unfortunate affair of his younger brother Jerome with an inadequate woman, let's say it that way. And he writes this letter not to Jerome himself. Well, he did write another letter to Jerome himself, but I picked this one because this will kind of give you a better impression. So he writes this letter to Madame Mère, I'm not sure, but obviously she was an important woman to the family. It was April 22nd, 1805, so he's been the Emperor of France for 1 year now. And Jerome is not really living up to his means. So, okay, here it goes. To Madame Mère. Jerome Bonaparte arrived with a woman with whom he lives in Lisbon. I have ordered this promising son to pass over Perpignan, Toulouse, Grenoble, and Turin to Milan, and also let him know that if he takes another way, he will be arrested immediately. Yeah, he would have gone that far. Mademoiselle Patterson, that's the woman who was living with Jerome. Well, they also ended up having a child together, a son. Anyway, Mademoiselle Patterson, who lives with him, is in precautionary company of her brother. I have given orders to send her back to America because she was the daughter of an American businessman. And Napoleon, his opinion of these American businessmen wasn't too high. To send her back to America. If she evades my given orders and comes to Bordeaux or Paris, she will be brought to Amsterdam and put on board of the first American ship there is. I will treat this young man with all strictness. If during the only meeting I grant him, he does not show himself worthy of his name and insists on continuing this affair. So now he's emperor and things are changing a little bit, and so what he demands of himself, the greatness that he demands of himself, he also demanded of others, especially of his own family. But they wouldn't always live up to it. So that would become, as time went on, that would become a big problem. Okay. Okay. Is he not willing to wash off the disgrace he put upon my name by abandoning his flags for a pathetic broad? I will forever turn away from him. Maybe by that I set an example which teaches the young soldiers up to what extent their duties are sacred, and which will convince them of the magnitude of their crime if they leave their flags for a woman. His soldiers were his children. So the same he demanded of himself and his brothers, he also demanded of his soldiers. Okay, so better don't leave your flag for a woman. Should he go to Milan after all, so write to him. Tell him that I have been like a father to him, and that therefore he has sacred duties to fulfill against me, and for his own good he has no choice other than to follow my advice. Also talk with his sisters about it, that they may write him as well, because if I have once spoken his verdict, I am unshakable, and his life is forever destroyed. So he wasn't afraid to sacrifice for what he believed in, for his principles. So after that, Jerome divorced this Mademoiselle Patterson, and things were good. Well, maybe not for Jerome they might not have been that good, but for the order they were good again. Okay, so as this goes on, you can tell that Napoleon was not quite amused about all these developments of his brothers. They started out so talented and promising, and then they, in Napoleon's eyes, they would, throw away all their talents and their future for these pathetic women. Yeah, here comes the next letter to Louis. Louis Napoleon, who was at the time 1806 King of Holland. And Napoleon created this kingdom of Holland and put his little brother Louis to reign over Holland. He became the king. And this is a letter to Louis, November 1806. You have given orders in France. He was the king of Holland. So Napoleon was not happy about him giving orders in France, and he's letting him know. I ask you to refrain from it. You have no understanding of the civil administration, and France is not used to that. So, France is not used to being ruled by a loser. Okay. I am, for example, very surprised that you have taken the liberty to prohibit the grain export in the department Ruhr, and the General Louison, who followed that order, made a big mistake. So he also made the order followers responsible for what they did. He couldn't come and say, oh, I just followed orders, it's not my fault. No. So that was Napoleon. Then he goes on about details, and that was the last letter in this video. So I think everything has been said, and these letters will give you a good impression of what kind of man he was. He really loved his family, truly. He was a great patriarch, and you will see in the next video. You will get to know Napoleon, the lover and the husband and father, and you will understand the great patriarch he was. He really was a great man, and I think the world just was not ready for this kind of greatness. It felt like staying mediocre, because it's no pony ride being great. It really is not. I mean, Napoleon, he was ready to, not only sacrifice his own brother for the greater good, also sacrifice his life. And these are things that you need to understand about Napoleon when you try to judge him. Yeah. Okay, so that's it for today. Napoleon, the son, the brother, the patriarch. Thanks for watching.